With us tonight, we have two coaches, players that have been already inducted into the Hall of Fame. Bill McLean and Don Willard. Both of them, please stand, please. I believe that Don went in just a couple of months ago. He's the head coach at Knightstown. And then Bill went in, I believe, just in 2001, so just two recent inductees into the Hall of Fame. We don't have anybody else that we missed, do we, that's in the... Okay. Before we get started here, and I know we're all ready to eat, but this is my chance to get up and kind of share something about Coach Wright, so I don't want to really let that pass without saying a few things. I had an opportunity to go to the Hall of Fame last summer, and it is really, for people that are into high school football or into football, and even if you're just into history about Indiana, it is just it's a really neat place to go and just walk around, see some things that might have been just last year, or see some things from the late 1800s, early 1900s. And it's just a fascinating place to go walk through. But as I left there, knowing what I know about Coach Wright and the history of Sheridan football and what he has done there, I just felt that the Hall was incomplete without it. And so I just really feel that after tonight, that my eyes, the Hall is going to be complete. I look around and I see a lot of coaches that I know things about that are already inducted to the Hall, and very worthy that they are there. But now that Coach Wright is in the Hall, then I really feel that the Hall is complete. When I went to Sheridan, I went in 1995, and I became an assistant coach there, and Coach got a hold of me, had me over to his house, and we started kind of talking about what we're going to do, what I was going to do for him. And you know, one of the first things you do is you want to learn the offense, you want to learn the defense. So I asked Coach if he had a copy of a playbook for me. He said, "Well, there's a copy of the playbook, but it's only one place," and he pointed to his head. So I said, "Well, you know, can we kind of like start writing some stuff down?" And I work some camps and go to clinics with some other football coaches. As we go, everybody kind of wants to hear a Bud Wright story. So you know, I always tell them this story about how I got my first playbook from him, and how I got my first playlist and things like that. And as I tell the story, I know coaches think I'm just exaggerating. They say there's no way that's possible. They like the story, they always laugh, and they always like to hear it, but they don't believe. I think it's more like kind of an urban legend, the way the stories go when I tell them. But the first thing that we did is we were sitting there, and I wanted to know what our main offense was going to be. And so he said, "We don't have a playbook." So he said, "Well, give me a piece of paper." I said, "Well, you know, we were sitting in the concession stand out at Sheridan Field, which anybody associated with Sheridan knows that's really the official office of the football staff." So he goes over and he gets a paper towel. And there is my first official playlist and playbook for Sheridan football. So all those guys think I make stories up. That's the first one right there. The next night we're sitting out there talking, and I want to know what the rest of the offense is. So once again, we don't have paper, so I go to my glove compartment, and I've got a 10-minute quick lube receipt. On the back is our entire playlist for the season. So that's the closest thing I got to a playbook. A couple of years later, James and helping him clean out his office, and we run across a file, and I now have an official Sheridan Blackhawk playbook. And it says 73 on there, and I asked Coach what that meant, and he said, "Well, I think that's our 1973 playbook, so I think that's the last time there's been anything on paper. That's the Sheridan playbook." So a lot of those guys never believe those stories, but now you're going to hear some other stuff tonight, and a lot of times they sound exaggerated, but most of the time they're right on the mark. But that's what makes Coach Wright so unique and so deserving of everything that he's done here. I'm going to finish up here. I'm excited about this evening. I was excited when I walked in this room and got to see so many Sheridan people, got to see so many coaches from around the state. Just so many people here that care about Coach Wright. And the big thing is we all know what his accomplishments are on the football field. The list is just numerous, and we all know it. But the really outstanding part is that everybody's here because they love the man and they're excited about him being honored tonight. So enjoy the evening, and I'm honored to be here, and I'm honored to be a part of this. And let's just have an enjoyable evening.
I hope everybody's enjoyed that fine meal. If we can get Bud out of the line, we can get started again. Now, many of you might be wondering why I might have been chosen to do this. Well, let me give you a little background. It was the night of the Major League All-Star game. You remember the one that ended in a tie. 10:30 at night, the phone rings. Familiar voice on the other end. Gary? Yeah? Bud Wright. Hi, Bud. What do you need? Well, they're going to put me in a Hall of Fame. I said, well, that's good. It's about time. And I need somebody to be the master of ceremonies. I said, really? Yeah, Dave Nicholson's not available, so can you do it? Sure, why not? So that's how I got the job. Let's get started with our speakers this evening. I know we have a lot of people to get through, and I know they are all excited about something to say about Bud. First person I'd like to introduce is former Sheridan football player to Bud, a graduate of Sheridan High School. You did graduate, didn't you? Okay. All the way here from Phoenix, Arizona, Dan Tucker.
I got a phone call from Mrs. Brimberry and said we're doing this thing for Coach Wright, and I said, well, this sounds nice. And she goes, well, it's a roast. And I'm like, hey, 2 days. Every time I cuss, run into the goalpost, I'm thinking, this is what I'm looking forward to. This is sweet, sweet revenge. So I'm on the airplane, 3-hour flight, sitting next to my wife, and she's like, man, this guy really had some kind of impact on you, because I'm pushing the pins, going left and right, and I'm on my way here, and I'm like, I got some good stuff for the coach. And then all of a sudden, I saw the coach's family walk in. Then we had to hear from the pastor. I'm telling you, folks, when you do a roast, you don't have a pastor in the room. And if I know you, you planned it that way. So, Your Holiness, or whatever you want to be called, there you go, sir. I will be very polite, and this will be a PG-13 roast, okay? One of the things I learned from Coach Wright was he was a unique individual, and he was unique in the fact that he had a really unique sense of humor. And I think sometimes he kept me around because we had a different sense of humor, and he always kind of appreciated the way I looked at life, and I always liked how he looked at life. And I think one of the pictures on the back where he looks really puzzled is something I said, and he's trying to figure out what the heck I was saying. But I learned a few things from Coach Wright. One was surround yourself with good people, or people that will put up with your crap. Now, in the animal kingdom, they call it a runt. In the prison world, we got the pastor here, so we'll move on. But when I was at Sheridan High School, it was Coach Herb. You're lucky the pastor's here, Herb. I wish I had $1 every time Coach Wright would come out of the offensive huddle and go, damn it, Herb, they don't run that. And when he called him Dave, then we knew that Herb was in trouble. So if it was, damn it, Dave, I knew goes, Dan, he goes, you know, I always told you to go in the weight room. Why'd you never go in the weight room? Were you afraid of the weights? What was it? I go, well, I was afraid that if I put on about 10 more pounds, you'd put me on the offensive line. I didn't want to have anything to do with that. And you would have too, wouldn't you? Again, just a random thought. That's the first video I've ever seen with Coach Wright in the room that I didn't have to watch it 10 times. Probably drive him insane, is that in the world of football, there are no such things as physics as we now know them. Now keep this in mind. Coach told me that if you were a 170-pound guy and you hit a guy weighing 300 pounds, as hard as you possibly could hit him, it wouldn't hurt. Now, if there was any doubt whatsoever whether or not you hit him as hard as you could possibly hit him, then it was your fault, and that's why you were hurt. After a college game, a nurse at the Carson College Infirmary told me really that wasn't the case, and that was a lie. Evidently, I was telling a Baptist preacher how much my IV bag felt like a breast implant. So, the number one thing I learned from Coach Wright was loyalty, and that's the honest to goodness truth. I look around this room, and this is the first time I've been back here in probably 10 to 12 years. And I see a lot of the same faces. I see Harv over here. I see Herb. I see all the same faces. I saw Mr. Clark. These people really love him, and he's a loyal man. And I tell you what, living in Sheridan is not always the best thing in the world. Coach Wright's been loyal, and I'm sure he's had a lot of opportunities. He's been loyal to the kids, his family as well. So, hats off to Coach Wright.
You know, Dan, he didn't lie to you. When you're 175 and you hit a 300-pounder, it's not going to hurt him. You know, Dan talking about a roast, you're supposed to be kind of irreverent, make jokes about people. I'm not going to make any jokes about this person. This is one of the kindest, nicest, gentlest persons I've ever met in my life. She has to be able to put up with Bud and the boys and the girls. Bud's wife, Jenny Wright.
It's so special to see all your friends and family. I'm trying not to cry. together on special occasions as this. I thank you. Bud and I have been married for 39 years. And his first head coach job, he was 24, I was 21. And you know, I really didn't know what to expect as being a head coach's wife. I guess I just thought I showed up and that was it. But you know what? The very first game I attended, I was really in for a surprise. Like I was 21, I came from a family who never really attended many games. I don't really remember my mother and father going to games. And when I went to a game, I usually ran around. I didn't really watch the games and so forth. So this was a new experience, and I'm sitting in the crowd there and watching the game, and all of a sudden there was this gentleman right behind me. Now he wasn't 2 seats ahead of me, or behind me, or 3 seats. I mean, he was right behind me. I could almost feel his breath on my neck. And all at once he says, "You stupid coach, you!" Well, you know, that took me by surprise. I wasn't expecting something like that, and but, you know, okay, and I just sat there. And so a little bit later, he says it again. Well, the first time it surprised me, but the second time, it kind of annoyed me. Well, the third time he said it, I jump up, I take my fist, I start to spin around, and all at once, I I realized, Jane, you're about to hit someone. I sit down real quick, and I was so glad that I didn't hit someone. I found out that was a test that night as the coach's wife, and I almost failed them, and thank God I didn't. And that taught me much right there, that one night. And I thought to myself after that, you know, you have a responsibility here. You represent your husband, number one, and you represent the school, number two. So I tried to respond. I tried to be ready for things like that, and not let it take me off guard. So through the years, I have had opportunities to be offended. But I learned. What I would want to do when I would hear comments made about Bud, you know, I'd be walking by and I'd hear someone, what I really wanted to do as a woman, you know, a woman likes to tell things, and a woman likes to give all the little details of it. And I'm not an exception. But I had this one thing in my heart that kept me from doing this. Because I thought, you know, if I go home and tell Bud this, and like I said, it was not easy because I wanted to. If I go home and tell Bud this, I'm the messenger of something that's junk to throw on him. So I decided not to, and that's the only thing that really gave me the strength not to, because there were times that, you know, it was hard not to tell him. So that was something that, as a coach's wife, I learned. And it's not easy when you love someone and keep hearing all these things that are not very good about them. So I'm grateful that I have that in my heart to protect him in that. To me, this ceremony, as great as it is, would not be complete in my eyes if I could not thank God for it. Because he's such a part of my life, and my husband knows that, and my children know that. And I'm so thankful for all he's done for us. You know, we're not any spatial family. We're not any different from anyone else's family. And I just always have thanked God and seen things that he's done for us. And one thing I want to thank God for is for all the loyal staff members Bud has had throughout the years. You know, you might think that every school has dedicated, loyal coaches, but that's not the truth. They don't always have, you see eye to eye with the head coach. You know, you can't have two head coaches. And so we have really been blessed by such loyal men. They have been the core for Bud, what he is today. And I'm grateful for it. I appreciate it. And Dave Urban, I'll tell you what, he is a special man. You are special, Dave. You really are. And I mean that from my heart. You know, especially in the early years, there isn't anything that Dave Urban wouldn't do for Bud. And Bud will admit it. We talked about it before. And Bud, you know, Dave, he didn't just do the job description of a coach. When he seen a need, he met that need. And I mean, I observed it. I saw it with my own eyes, and we just love him. Throughout the years, there have been coaches that have come and they've gone. And they've all been spatial individuals. And the thing about it is, sometimes we forget, you know, when there's someone always there that, you know, you don't have to ever tell them what they have to do or remind them. You get to take them for granted, just like your husband and I, you know. You take them for granted. And like I said, some of the coaches have come and gone. Some of them have become head coaches themselves. Some have gone into administration jobs. One thing or another, they've left. And when they've left, that's left a void in the staff. Because they were just so spatial and just always there. And, you know, we didn't really realize that until after they left, which was a shame. But Bud and I talked about this, and we had to grow up in this area and to appreciate these men. And so I'm so thankful for each individual. They're all spatial. They're spatial people. And I also thank God for Bud's health. There is no way he could do what he does with the schedule he keeps if he did not have the health that he has. And I'm thankful for that. I've never been able to keep up with him. I used to try to stay up and be home and, you know, be there when he gets in and warm his meals up. And, you know, after so many years of that, I couldn't take it. So the best I could do was have something in the refrigerator and he could put it in the microwave. So there is one little story I'd like to share with you before I hand it over. The first 2 years of Beth's coaching career, he was assistant at North Miami High School. At the end of the second year, the head coach had resigned. So Beth, he went into the superintendent's office and he asked the superintendent what his chances were of maybe getting that position. And this is the advice that the superintendent gave me. He said, you know, you really do need to check out and get in a new position professionally because you're just never going to make a good coach. You know, when you tell Bud Wright you can't do something, that's firing words, isn't it? So I just thank God for all of our blessings. I'm thankful that, you know, I was in a serious car accident several years ago. Everybody said, you know, you're so lucky. Well, I wasn't lucky. I was blessed. I know I was. And I'm so thankful that, you know, it was fine. I got the royal treatment. I got to go on a, what do you call it, the lifeline. I got to go to the lifeline. And, you know, they kept saying, oh, you're so lucky. Because I mean, I was out of that hospital by that evening. And I mean, I might not be here today. But I just celebrated with my family, and I'm just so thankful. I just thank each and every one of you for coming out tonight. God bless you.
How stupid does that superintendent have to feel right now? Our next group of speakers are with Bud on a daily basis. They work long, hard hours to give the football team the best advantage they have to win every Friday night. Dedicated coaches like Mike Shelburne, my good friend, they make some of the most important decisions every single day, like where they're going to eat dinner at. And that's about it, really. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce the coaching staff of Sheridan High School and their spokesperson, Mike Shelburne.
You guys go ahead and stand up. I'm not going to take all the credit. Good. These are the current coaching staff members right now. These are not. There you go. How about if I just do it like this? Amen. They're all right? Yeah. Good. I'm not going to take credit for all these. This is a compilation of everything. Coach, I do get to keep my job money, right? I want to get this confirmed before we get started. All right. Now we go on. First of all, I know Coach is getting a little older now. You know, he's 50, 60 something. Sometimes his brain slips just a little bit. Right now, our quarterback, his name's Brett, by the way, but he also has been called a variety of different things. Brian, his dad, who played in the 1980 championship team. He's been called Derek, his 1984 state championship quarterback uncle. He's been called Shelley, his 1992 state championship quarterback uncle. He's been called Nick, his 6th grade brother. Here's the topper. He's also been called Sam, his 2nd grade brother. Sometimes we wonder, Coach. You know, Coach Wright is a very unique individual in a lot of different ways. Look at it. Sheridan ready to play North Putnam in the state championship playoff game up in Sheridan. Coach is out in the field getting things ready, setting up markers, or whatever he's doing. North Putnam arrives. Their coach walks out in the field, checks where they're dressing and everything. Coach sends them up, sends them into the locker room, shows them, and goes about his business. Teams are out in the field, and the coaches meet together at the 50-yard line and shake hands. And the North Putnam coach looks at him and goes, "Oh my God, I thought you were the janitor." Now, that's not the only mistaken identity in coaches. There was a superintendent, Dr. Mark, it is not you. I also want this job Monday from the teaching position. Our administration meets after every school board meeting to discuss what was discussed at the meeting. Well, for 6 months, our superintendent and Mr. Wright, being an athletic director as administrator, was attending these same meetings. For 6 months, our beloved Bud was called Al. Al was our principal. Now, if I'm coming to Sheridan, now we've had 5 state championships at this point. If I'm coming to Sheridan, I pretty well am going to know where the best place to eat is and who my football coach is. In his coaching situations, I'm sure there's many. The one of them stands out, and I believe this was Mr. Hoskins of Westfield, but Coach might have had a disagreement with one of the officials. All of a sudden, the official has thrown his flag, and next thing you know, Coach Wright's walking across the field. Well, the man in the white hat comes running over. Bud, what's going on? What are you doing? He said, "He just threw me out of the game." He said, "No, he didn't. I want to talk to you right now." Coach travels all over the state, whenever Sheridan, if eventually we're eliminated, or if we have a Friday night game or a Saturday night game, Coach travels all over the state going to watch a team play. In his travels, he knows where every smorgasbord and every Ryan is at. He knows where they're at. Matter of fact, in the clinic, I got an opportunity to attend some clinics here when I stepped out of the basketball program. Got to go to these clinics in the winter, and there was a coach down in Kentucky. When Coach is famous at these clinics, they have his own mini clinic in his own room. So they go out to eat a lot of times. They plan it, and this coach from Kentucky goes, he wants to get in Bud's group when they go out to eat. They go, "Why that?" Because they throw a lot of plays on his stuff. "No, I just love to watch him eat." There was one time, and I was a part of this too, I was sat across the table and watched him. Prime rib buffet, all you can eat. Well, when the coaching staff got finished, we went back up to the motel room, and everybody's laid down in the bed. Coach goes, "I wish I hadn't had those pork chops before I had prime rib." Miss Jane, I'm going to give you a little bit of your loyalty test here. How many assistant coaches would react in this way? Coach gets done with practice, he walks in all hot and sweaty, and just kind of leans over and says, "Pull my shirt off." Or we're getting ready to walk out on the field for a game. Coach walks over, puts his foot up on the bench, and goes, "Tell my shoe." Several years ago, Coach Hayes, Coach Enright, I saw you guys, and I know how hard it was for you guys on Friday nights, in between the lights, to try to beat him. I know how tough it was, but I guarantee you, he has never lost a game on the other side of the bleachers on the practice field. He has a tendency to cheat. You're working with 3 defensive linemen and 2 linebackers, and you're working with running plays right up the middle, and he makes a statement, I'll bet you don't stop this one. All right, we're ready, we're ready. Wherever defense ready, pumped up, he runs an option around the outside. Or if he's on the defensive side, says one play to score. Offense, you got one play to score, you don't run anymore. Throw the pass out there to the wide receiver. We're waiting for the ambulance to come and the priest to come to give last rites to the receivers. And there's no pass interference. What are you talking about? Sometimes coach will make a mistake. Now, it doesn't happen very often. He hadn't won 275 games or more without doing a lot of things right. When he makes a mistake, he knows it. And a couple years ago, he made a statement. If I make a mistake, if I try to do that again, just shoot me. And he goes, wait a minute. Just shoot me in the leg. I don't want that. I'm going to close with two things. Miss Jean, you're not going to get off this scot-free either. I know it's Bud tonight, but you're a big part of it. First year coach. Never been to Coach Wright's house before. Coach Wright, being the practical joker he is, tells him, hey, I don't want you to be shocked, but my wife weighs 250 pounds. So, when you walk in the door, don't be surprised. So, needless to say, he gets to the coach's house, knocks on the door. James. And needless to say, he's surprised. Coach Wright says, that's my sister. And finally, Miss Jane, I think you can count on the number of hands, the number of times you got to ride the team bus home from the ball game. One? Is that right? You did one. That was also the same night we ran over our police escort. Coach, you're the best. Everything you get here is deserving of it. Congratulations.
Okay. He can do it, I can do it. A lot of you in here have had Bud for class, all right? Have history, and Bud, you really missed out on this. You really did. You don't get the credit you deserve for this because you are the forefront. You are right on the cutting edge. You invented the History Channel. Every day you go by Bud's room, there's a video. Is one of a kind. Many people compare him to kind of Kramer of Seinfeld. He was an assistant coach for over 30 years with Bud. They won 6 state championships, despite him being a 30-year assistant coach. Ladies and gentlemen, my friend, Dave Irvin.
There was a minister. Oh, thank you. He was trying to start a church. And he was wanting to be, his first meeting, he was wanting people to testify and get that burden off their heart. And he tried to call on this person, he didn't get any response. Tried to call on this person, didn't get any response. Finally called on this woman in the back and didn't get a response. I mean, she started out telling things and people tried to see about it. And people, it was stories. stories you couldn't, Dan Tooker couldn't even tell. And I wish I could do a Jerry Clower's voice. The minister came out and said, "Whew, I don't believe I'd have told that." So I don't think I can tell some of the things without roasting myself. I decided to go another route. Well, first off, the first time I met Bud was when Coach Day used to practice with his 8-iron down on the Iron Stouts field. And they would often have practice during that time, or at least run some plays. And I had just come to Sheridan. I was going out to meet some of the team members, and as I got out there, they were running plays, and all of a sudden, two back, boom, just bashing each other. And up comes this. The only thing I noticed was his legs were, and I mean, there was blood everywhere. Never says it. Just has those little eyes. And that's the first meeting, or the time I ever saw Bud Wright. And when I thought of that, when I thought of the toughness that Bud possesses, physical, mental, and what he brings to the table in coaching. Later on, we were playing a game, and Bud's a halfback. This is my junior year. And we got a guy carrying the ball that did not like danger too much, and didn't like to be physically abused too much. And Bud was trailing. He wasn't the fastest back there, but he was there. So he just gently tosses that ball out there. And Bud knows what's coming. But he still reaches out, and I mean to tell you, he is level. Completely level. And I have never seen an injury as bad as him. He's on his back, he's in convulsions, his arms are I didn't think he would ever give up. And that, to me, exudes the sacrifices that he's willing to make, regardless of the consequences. He knew he was going to get drilled. He knew it was coming. But he never took the ball anyway. He was going to do with it whatever it took. The next thing I want to relate to you is the next week. This guy couldn't even remember exactly his name. He had a leather helmet on. He had a single bar mask. They made fun of him. All his friends made fun of him. But despite that, he could get the guys to rally around him because they had confidence in him. And they helped him think of what plays we're going to run. And his leadership shone through. Even in that situation where he couldn't exactly be 100%, just his presence, just his leadership made all the difference to our team. One other attribute that he has, he called himself, he lived on a farm, he said he did a lot of work. Did a lot of milk. Well, along the same lines I was talking about leadership, all I know is that he had lots of people doing the milking and getting the hay. And that was a training ground for him to go, because if there ever was a guy that could get people to do things for him. You know, at first that seems a little self-serving, but when you really think of it, that is really a quality of leadership. That he can get people to do things and rally behind him to get him to do that. And it started at a very young age, and it has continued on. People like and are willing to do things just because it's better. And I don't think there's too many other people in this world that could happen other than Wright. One of the things that when he was in college, we tried to get him down, several of us, and so I tell you, you talk about a fight. And that episode points out to me that he is a man of his own conviction. That no matter what his peers do or don't do, whatever's popular, that no matter what, whatever he decides is right, that's what it'll be. Regardless of his friends, regardless of the situation, he's a man, he's his own man. And we were going to make him take a drink because, he's stuck. And so tell you, you talk about a fight. And that episode points out to me that he is a man of his own conviction. That no matter what his peers do or don't do, whatever's popular, that no matter what, whatever he decides is right, that's what it'll be. Regardless of his friends, regardless of the situation, he's a man, he's his own man. And that's quite an attribute. Also along those lines, you know how you kind of horseplay, everybody taps somebody, a guy kind of puts somebody in the shoulder. You don't ever want to get in a little roughhousing or horseplay unless you're ready to die or you're willing to lose a vital body. That speaks to his maximum effort. No matter what, he'll do whatever it takes. And he doesn't back down. The one way, though, to get it, the one way, some of you coaches out there are still playing, the one thing he hates more than anything is for somebody to get him with something stupid. That's one of the only things I can do. So we're in a card game, and we're playing, and he knows how many cards he's got. He knows how many cards have been played. And when the luck is on your side, you just throw the queen on him. Man, does he get mad. If you're coaching against him and you do something unsound, unprincipled, and it works, there's nothing that will get us going. Some guys that are successful, part of the reason they're successful is they only do what they can do. They don't branch out, they don't take chances. I've known several people in leadership roles, Dr. Mark and I'm one of them, that would not take a chance. They only do what they can do. Bud is not big on dressing, but he can dress up. He's not big on going to hospitals. He's not big on doing some of those things. He's not big on speaking. But if you've ever heard him speak, he's not big on writing. Because when he does write, it's really good. And that's one of the many things that I admire about him, is that he is willing to do the things and can do regardless of whether it's in his comfort zone or not. And not many people will put themselves in that situation. Along the lines of dress, one time, not only was he mistaken for a janitor, we're at this game, and the guy comes over to me, we haven't played before, and they got it. And we are a little concerned. In fact, I think they might have been in the field. So they're playing us for the first time, we're playing them for the first time. And of course, I'm in my shorts, my long socks, everything, the thinning, And the guy comes over to me, and he starts talking to me like I'm the head coach. He's talking. I said, well, you need to talk to him. He said, him? I thought he's the bus driver. I told him about that guy was severely punished. And not only that, the next year, wherever he went in a clinic, that guy was right behind him. So, sometimes actions do speak louder. Now I want to talk about maybe myself, my personal things. One thing in all the years that I've been with Bud, many situations, regardless of my actions, regardless of my words, he's always been with me. I've never been a yes person. I've always felt that I could tell him what I thought. He didn't hesitate to tell me what he thinks. But despite that, he's always been there. He was there for, him and Jane were there for my wife's first operation. It's not something he likes to do, but he was there for me. We've been through the good times, and we've been through the bad times. And that's the other point about his loyalty. In all the years that I've been together, I never once heard him make a remark that reflected even the remotest negative concept about any family member or any friend in all those years. And I'm not sure that each and every one of us sitting out there could make that same statement. I have never heard him say anything about anybody he loves, he cares for, in any negative way.
Is Mr. Wright there? He said, just a minute. And in a moment, here comes Bud, steps out in the hallway, says, what is it? I said, Mr. Wright, I don't want to be the track manager this year. And he gave me that. I said, no, I want to throw the shot. And he said, okay. And the next year, I told him, I want to run the half mile. Now I can run. It's not a pretty sight. But I'm only about half as fast as a good runner. Just kind of half fast. But when I told Bud I wanted to run the half mile, he didn't bat an eye. He said, okay. He let me be part of a varsity high school track team and knew that I would never, ever score a point for him. Yet, he coached me. He timed me down to the wire every time. And he gave me a place to belong. And for that, I can never repay you, sir. Bud Wright.
Bud did coach track. How long did you coach track?
19 years.
19 years. And he coached sprinters, too. Can you imagine this guy coaching sprinters? That'd be pretty good, though. You know, I heard he was a great coach. I really did. Our next speaker, I had the distinct privilege of sharing a classroom with this man, Shane Clark. He was an assistant coach for Bud. He was the junior high athletic director. He and I shared a science room together. And I've always had a soft spot in my heart for Shane because Shane is the only guy that I know that can yell louder and turn redder than me when we're racing down the field. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Shane Clark.
We're not using this, right?
You're loud.
Well, we were at athletic director's meeting, I think it's been about almost 2 weeks ago, and I was planning on coming to Bud's induction. And we sat down, I sat down at the table with my Bud, and as a matter of fact, just in conversation, Bud said, oh, by the way, would you consider speaking? I said, thought, man, I said, yeah, I'll give that a shot. He says, well, just speak about 2 or 3 or 4 minutes and it's going to be a roast. I don't think anybody could speak 2, 3, or 4 minutes and roast Bud Wright. So I was thinking, okay, I could probably think of a lot of things to say. My wife, she couldn't be here tonight. She really wanted to. Was trying to encourage me about several things that I could say, and I was thinking about things and thinking about things. Something would come to mind, and I'd say, no, I can't talk about that. Something else would come to mind, no, I can't talk about that either. And then something else came to mind. It's a good thing I'm not going to talk about that because we have a pastor in the room. So, but there are a lot of things that I can talk about. I remember when I first came to Sheridan, I was a Westfield grad. Of course, yeah, I hear that. Fresh out of college, trying to get a job, thinking, you know, man, I'll go anywhere. And like Bud's wife, Jane, you know, I have a special relationship with the Lord, and I like for Him to guide my life, give me direction. And I said, Lord, I'll go just about anywhere, but I am not going to go to Sheridan. You know, God has a sense of humor. But that was only because I was a former Westville person. Of course, that rivalry was always there, you know. I was able to play on a team against Bud. Of course, back then, being a high school person, you know, you don't know who the coaches are. You're just trying to survive. But I knew who he was. I was the only guy taller than him. Well, I remember when I first got to meet Bud, I was going to be the assistant junior high football coach. When I came up to the upstairs locker room of the Adams Elementary, and Ron Blotch was there. He was the athletic director at the time. And Bud looked at him and said, Ron, said, you buy him a pair of football cleats. That meant more to me at that time than anything. I had my own pair of football coaching shoes. And Bud Wright said I could have them. Well, I moved on up and coached, started coaching junior high as the head coach. And I knew when I started doing that, man, I've got to get into this man's mind, because I know he knows the game. If I'm ever going to be successful, I have got to know what he's doing and how he's coaching. So I started going to the film sessions as a junior high coach. My wife thought I was nuts. I remember the first film session I went to after a ball game. And we watched the film, we watched the game film. Of course, you know, we had to go down and take the film down and get it processed. And then while it was processing, we always went out to eat. So we get back and we're sitting in the teacher's lounge and we're watching that film. And we're watching that film. And we're watching that. And when we get done, I walk outside and it's light out. The sun is coming out. I go home. My wife gets up and says, "What in the world have you been doing?" I said, "Well, we watched the game film." And several times, we're running that film, those films back and forth, watching that same play. And sometimes it's, it's the game film where we didn't do so well. And he's trying to analyze the play and analyze the play and analyze the play. Maybe it didn't work so well. And I'm thinking, he keeps running the same play back and forth, and the play hasn't changed a bit. Well, going on up then and having the privilege to move up and coach underbud at the high school level, one of my jobs was to wear the headsets. The guys upstairs would talk to me, and then I'd talk to Bud. And Bud was always screaming, talk to me, tell me what's going on. So whoever was upstairs would talk to me, and I'd relay that to Bud. He says, I already know that. Tell me something I don't already know. So I'd say, give me something else, position of the linebacker, how the lineman do it, whatever. And so they give me information, and I keep talking to him. And a lot of times he'd walk the sidelines, I have to walk with him, And he never, most of the time, would never acknowledge if he was listening to me or not. Unless I told him something, and it was already something he already knew. So I'd walk with him and try to talk and tell him all this stuff, all about the game, what they were seeing, what was happening. And little by little, as the game progressed, I'd talk less and less and less. And all of a sudden, he'd turn to me, talk to me! I said, but you don't listen. He goes, I am listening, just talk. I remember one particular game, I was talking, and I told him, I said, I think the defense is set the wrong way. And he goes, no, the defense is not set the wrong way. I said, Coach, I think the defense is set the wrong way. The strength is this way, and the defense is set the opposite way. He says, no, the defense is not set the wrong way. I said, Coach, the defense is set the wrong way. The defensive end is down in the gap between the end and the tackle. It's set the wrong way. He says, no, it's not set the wrong way. I didn't talk to him the rest of the game. In fact, it was Wednesday, I think, before we talked. Well, we watched the game film, of course, and guess what? The defense was set the wrong way. And about Wednesday, Bud came up to me and says, Shane, I'm sorry, yeah, the defense was set the wrong way. And I thought Dave Urban was going to have a fit. You mean he apologized to you? There's so many other things, I can tell, all the good times we used to have. Back to that stretch where we had some just excellent football teams. And I think Jane said a good thing when she said that the coaching staff that Bud had around me was special. And I was privileged to be a part of that. I don't think a day goes by that I don't think about those times. Something about Sheridan football, something about the times that we had. The good times, the fun times, the times, yeah, we struggled sometimes. Sometimes we got mad at each other, but we were real cohesive. And it was special. Jane, I wanted to tell you too, my wife really counted it a privilege to be able to sit in those stands with you and the other coaches' wives, just to be a part of it. And her knowing about Jane and her faith and how she supported Bud and all that he did, that meant a lot to her. So she has a lot of good memories too. But Bud, I want to thank you. Thank you for the inspiration that you've given me. Thank you for the leadership, the things that you've taught me. Thank you for the experience that you provided for me. That I could say that I'm proud to be a part of Sheridan football and Coach Bud Wright. Thank you very much.
Shane talked about some of your, coaching the junior high and things like that. You've had some decent coaches at junior high. I do need to tell you this. You got a couple guys running around there kind of telling some stuff. Good and Brimbear say they taught Urban everything he knew what to do. And they're also taking every credit from Maynard, too. Our next speaker comes to us in somewhat the same capacity that Bud did. He is the head coach of North Miami High School, Mr. Bob Bridge.
I feel a little bit out of place. I'm not from Sheridan. Also, I got fired a year and a half ago from North Miami. So Bud and I are both gone from there. And Coach, I believe that superintendent that called him out probably had been at North Miami also. We knew him also, but we're not here to honor North Miami at all. How old I'm getting is, and some of you guys are getting old, because the squalling kid in the back is Landry Osmond. Do you remember Bud when he wasn't married and was always coaching and gung-ho and all that? And now he's back there with his kid and his wife, and he's a head coach at Oak Hill and so forth. But he called me a couple weeks ago. It was Wednesday night. They were getting ready to play North Miami, and he said, I talked to Bud, and he would like you to speak at the induction. Are you coming down? And I said, well, I'm not now, but I was planning on coming. And then I was fortunate also to be Mark Flicker's high school coach over at South Adams 100 years ago. And then we've been on the sidelines because we usually got beat in the playoffs early, so we just followed whoever we wanted to. And so Flick would be on the sidelines, and I even forget the team that you guys played, that the guy was supposed to be so good and all this. But I have a couple of capacities in being involved in football. Bill and Joyce are here, and Bob Prescott and I are on the Hall of Fame Board of Directors. and we go over once a month on Wednesdays for meetings, not for football. And we have to pick and choose, and so I'm on that screening committee for nominees and candidates. And then I'm chairperson of the Past Presidents Coaches Association of the IFCA, and so we screen those. So what happens is Bud Osmond sent his name in, it goes to the Hall of Fame, we vote on it, then I take that name in March and take it to the Past Presidents, and we pick it, and then I take those names before the Coaches Board of Directors meeting at the state 20. And it was a tough sell, but we got it through. I said, it took us 3 votes, and I said, I know the guy, I'll speak for it, and so forth. And then back when I was a head coach, I was the guy that the 1A coaches called for the rating board. And on every Sunday, the 9 coaches would call. And Bud, can you believe this? I call him Lawrence, but Lawrence, he would call at 6 o'clock every night, every Sunday night at 6 o'clock. He'd be the last guy. The guy from Island, Bob Brookreddick, he would call at 9:30, right after Mass. I'd get home after 8 o'clock Mass, 9 o'clock, Bob would call, and then they'd call boom, boom, and then I'd be charting film or trying to watch a Bear game or something. But I knew at 6 o'clock, Lawrence was going to call, and then we'd hang up at 8:30 or so. And we have discussed every football program in the state, you know, and I'd say, well, they're pretty good. No, they're not any good. They can't win us. Also, so that was fun. So we were on the same rating board, and it was fun. Flick would come down on December when we're putting this all-state team together, and Bud says, "Well, I can get a computer because all the other 5A, 4A guys are all computer guys. I'm a yellow tablet guy." But Flick would bring the computer, and then Lawrence would tell him what to put in the computer, and we all vote and so forth. Lawrence, he blames you guys from Sheridan on the 94 team. He blames us at North Miami because you guys got beat by Northwood. He blames us. He does. He said, because we were fortunate to win the state in 93, and we had 4 1,000-yard rushers in that backfield. We didn't just give it to Law. We spread it around. By the way, speaking of that, on the video, and they showed the Bremen game, I did not see the interaction right after the game with Scott Muncie and Coach Wright. On that video, but don't ever call him short. But he tells me after the game, and first of all, I was impressed. We got beat by North White in the semi-state. We had won the state before, the year before, so we get beat. And so I'm home and thinking about suicide. And Dave Lang calls and he said, "You're going to get a call from Bob Gardner." And I just say, "Hey," and he wants you to do the color commentary on the 1A game between Sheridan and North White on Friday. I said, "I don't want to live, Dave." And I'm serious. He and I have known each other, and we have really, when I was a head coach back when I was pretty intelligent and we were winning, I said, we tried to get together playing, we really did, and then they were changing schedules and so forth, but we tried to get a game, first game or second game between North Miami and Sheridan. And so Bob Gardner calls and he said, "Would you do it?" And I said, "Well, yes, sir, I'm supposed to, because Uncle Dave Land told me to." So then I had to be very polite, because then I didn't know that, you guys could buy that. And I'm up in the stand, or up in the press, the radio booth, talking about Sheridan and North White and so forth. But he still blames me, because the Indianapolis Star did an article, and we had 3 of the 4 1,000-yard rushers. 3 of them were back in '94. That's why I was such a good coach. We didn't repeat. The Indianapolis Star did an article, and he said some of the Sheridan players had him up in the locker, and they were all geared to play North Miami. And then North White beat us in the semi-state, so then Sheridan couldn't recover from that. Hell, I thought it was coaching. That's what I thought. Jim Davis just is a heck of a coach. Now, some other stories. Couple involved his wife, and she doesn't know this. There's a group of us that have work in option camp at Taylor University, Indian option, and that's when Bud O was not married, would come to camp and be there for hours upon hours and just talk football and tell us about the towel, the playbook, and all this stuff. And now he comes back. He doesn't even stay at camp. He drives back and forth those hills because he's with his bride. But Lawrence comes up and he'll and you guys play for him or coach with him, and he'll lay down on the practice field and watch practice and so forth. But it was when his son was getting married. Okay, and he said, I can't stay for long. He said, I got to get back. And on Friday, he said, I'm going to stay for the morning practice, but I told Jane I would be back because I got to get fitted for the tux for the wedding tomorrow. So we're trying to say, oh, you're going to just get that tux right off of the shelf. I didn't quite short either. He says, so he says, I got to be gone by 11. So we go eat. We're catching a power nap in between practices. And I look out, well, I'm getting ready to go to practice at 2 o'clock, and here he's running to the truck. And he was supposed to be there at noon, okay? So I don't know what time he got married, but Saturday morning, he's back in the truck before the wedding, picking up the equipment and taking the Sheridan kids home. But the wedding got on and all that stuff. Well, then there was another time. But you're going to want to buy this, okay? These are not my notes. I'm ad-libbing all this. Lawrence comes up, and we're in between camps. The kids have checked out, and we're going to get ready for the next camp. And I try to coach football. I don't golf, fish, hunt, nothing. I just love coaching football. So the other guys on the camp, they're all going golfing. Okay? So Lawrence is staying. He's not working camp. He's just up there. So we go to lunch, all of us, and then the guys go golfing. And he says, what are you doing? And I said, I'm going to go back to my room and take a power nap. So he says, well, I'll go up to him. So he comes up to the room. For 5 hours, it's he and I in the room. These are our notes. I'm honest to God, and I referred to them. There's offense and defense in here, buddo. I'm dead serious, okay? So we're there. I think I went to the bathroom twice. He went to the bathroom twice, and the rest of the time was constant talk about when is he going to retire, when am I going to retire, and at that time I didn't know on the horizon I was going to get fired the following year. So then, here's what he did. So the guys get back from golfing, and we're going to go to Applebee's in Marion. So he gets on the phone, and he says, Jane, he says, I'm with Bob Ridge, and he says, we're talking football, and he says, we're going out to eat, and I'll be home. So he hangs up, and I said, what'd she say? Oh, it's the answering machine. real certain, you know. And the last story I'd like to tell you, we have gone to, and we are idiots, we really are. Belvedere, Illinois has an option clinic in about the same time that Manchester College has their clinic in March. And we're driving 4.5 hours. Now, I'm going to tell you why we're really stupid, but we go 4.5 hours in this terrible storm and so forth because the guy from Texas is up there talking on this for you guys, the midline play. What's your number for midline? Pop. So here's the midline, and this guy's going to talk about the midline. So Lawrence is going to go with us, and we drive there, and my wife says, why don't you go 20 miles over to Manchester from North Miami? And I said, no, we're going 4.5 hours. Oh, it's getting stupider yet. That Belvedere coach now goes, and he goes to Rice Lake, Wisconsin. Okay, another 8 hours north of Chicago. So now, what are we doing? We're driving to Rice Lake instead of Belvedere. And the clinic is still Manchester. Okay? Okay, so all of us guys that are buddies from Oxford Camp, we are Al Harris from North Central is driving the North Central van, and we're driving up, and there's this guy about 300 pounds that's now coaching at Lowell, is sitting in the front. So Bud is trying to get in the van, and we're all loading into this big school van, and Bud is sitting there, so he grabs the shoulder strap to get into the van. So we drive all the way up, stay for 2 days, and drive all the way back. We get out of Wisconsin on the way back, and he's pulled on the strap, and poor Jim Kinkley's, you're choking, you're choking. So all the way up. Now, that's not the funny part. The funny part is, okay, we're at a gas station. Now, this is the guy we're honoring into the Hall of Fame, and all you guys revere, and he's your second father, and all this other stuff. Clark Curtis, would you stand up? Okay. This is the head coach from New Prairie. He had the distinction of rooming with Bud at Option. So, and he's ripping on Bud, but so he stands out, we're getting gas at this gas station, and Bart yells at him, "Jump, Bud!" Bud jumps! Okay? I mean, it's unbelievable. I'm thinking, this is the guy that's won all these state championships and all that. He's jumping on these people. And if we start talking football, he jumps from one room to one seat to the other and all this. And I never told him this, and I got one more. We were at Belvedere, and this was the state clinic for the midline, and Al Harris and I and Bud are rooming in the same hotel room. And Al Harris and I have been buddies for 25 years, so Al says, "You and I are sleeping together." I said, "Okay." Bud's over there by himself in his black, turquoise, purple tights. Nothing else, okay? So we get in bed, the lights out. Al starts talking about the passing game. The lights on? It's ready to go, okay? And we talk for a while. Okay, the light goes back out. I bump out. I say something about option. Boom, the light's back on. We did that about 4 times and had a great time. I have been fortunate. Jerry Brewer called. When I was the president of the Coach Association, Jerry Brewer was the vice president, and we developed a really neat relationship. And he called and he said, "Would you come down and speak at the induction?" And I said, "Yeah." And well, I was nervous then too. And went down there. And then last year, Master Server, would you?
Take a breath.
I did. Bob Copeland from Danville got inducted last year. And Copeland asked me to be the Master of Ceremonies. I didn't know anybody from Danville except Bob Copeland and his wife and Andy. So I'm trying to be the Master. And then when Bud O says, "Please come in and talk," and I said, "Oh." But I've been to enough Hall of Fame things, okay, that you need some time to walk back there and look at those rings, okay? And we are in the room with 2 other Hall of Fame people. We're in the room with greatness. And football coaches, and the game of football is to be played by kids, and it's for kids. And the greatest part of whether you have state championship, Bud and I talked at Warren Central last year. We were both out in the playoffs. It was the second game of the year, and I went down to see Al Harris coach his last game for North Central, and Bud was down there with his son, and we walked out there, and I'm now an assistant coach at Northwestern with Dan Robinson. We won 2 games last year, and we're 0-6 this year. I'm really helping turn the program around. Bud and I are standing there, and he talked, he said, "Boy, for us old guys, this has been a rough year." That was last year. What the hell about this year? We're 0-6 and we're 0-6. But the thing is, we're going through, I think, a time that, you know, the greatest coaching place would be coaching the wishbone at Boys Town. No parents. No parents. The parents aren't laughing. Coaches are. No parents. And you know what? No administration. You're just coaching boys. I mean, that's what I'm doing now. I drive 25 miles, 5 of us, the whole varsity staff went. So we go down there. But we're in the room with greatness, and it's a game of football. Nobody has taught. I'm the first guy that mentioned midline or any play except for the defense that was aligned the wrong way. But we talk about kids. You're here. We're sharing, but we're here. And so I tried to say at Jerry Brewer's. I used to say, you know, if you throw a stone in the water and kind of ripples. But, you know, if you're at a place 30-some years and you're coaching your grandson, you're coaching players, kids, and so forth now, you're coaching across the field from others, that's not just a ripple, that's an undercurrent that's going to, and now in the Hall of Fame, you step into immortality. And when you go there, it's an awesome thing. And so I'm in awe of being able to be here. I'd have been here anyway, and then I thought, what the hell am I talking for? But and to say that Bud Wright and I are compadres and Don Willard, that he roomed together, that would have been a nice room. But I mean, when you're here, and Mike Spencer, and all these coaches, and all of us guys are just having a great time back there. Speaking of eating, he came over. Now here's all these people, and it's almost like a wedding, or it's almost like a funeral. But we're here, and he's here. But in the he came back and said, we made a bet last year coming back from Wright Lake with Rob's parents in the big motorhome, and Bud's talking about, okay, there's 6 of us and 6 programs. The 3 guys that are at the bottom buy a prime rib special at River Falls, Wisconsin, for the 3 winners. So Bud is here talking to all you people, but he comes back and says, how are we standing on the bet? And he says, Lawrence, you're 0-6, we're 0-6, we're buying. Doesn't make any difference coming in March. But it's a great tribute and for the game of football. And as I get older and as Lawrence gets older, it's the people and the interaction with the players and your fellow coaches that really, that when it's all said and done. And to be into the Hall of Fame, how long it took. That's how long it took Joyce and I and Bob Prescott and the board to get his name through, you know. So, but I just am glad that Bud asked me to be here, not necessarily speak, but Lawrence, congratulations. Oh, I have one more thing. You guys from Sheridan will understand. I'm going to contribute a mouthpiece to the box.
Well, it's time for our program to come to a screeching halt. Our next speaker is a Sheridan High School football graduate. He also, I didn't know this, he led his team 4 years in a row in concussions. And when he comes up here to talk, you'll know what I'm talking about. Charlie Sims.
If I seem a little nervous, because I am. I've been waiting 14 years for this moment. And I was really honored when Coach Wright called me to speak. He told me I had 3 minutes, and my response back to him was, that's not going to be near enough time. Lucky for him, like we've already alluded to, we are in mixed company this evening, so I've picked, I'm going to tell 3 stories. They're really the only 3 that I can tell tonight. I have many more stories, but I have 3 stories. But I was just making a couple of notes, and there's a couple of things I want to talk about before we get started. Coach Urban alluded to how, and I think there's a couple other people who alluded how Coach Wright is brilliant at getting people to do things for him. You feel so honored just to be a part of the program. You really do anything for him. And I had forgotten what my job was as an assistant coach in 1996 when I moved up to the varsity level and he asked me to fill a void in his coaching staff. I really felt like I was going to learn a lot about the game. This was going to help my career. And I was going to get to help a man that had helped me in so many ways. The first day as an assistant varsity coach at the varsity level, I walk into the coach's office. This is our very first practice. Bud explains to me, he hands me a plunger and says, go get the toilets in the locker room unclogged. We're only getting started. I have to tell a story about Shane Clark too, because he's a real coach. He's an excellent coach and an excellent role model. he probably taught all of us kids who won a couple of state championships. There was one thing that you could always know about. Bud always had the luxury of knowing that he was going to have kids that knew how to tackle and knew how to block by the time they get into high school. Apparently, I was a little slower at that than some I remember when I was in reserve freshman year, I went both ways. My freshman year on the freshman team, we only had 12 players. Then my next year, my reserve year, Coach Clark was my coach, and I was only, I wasn't playing. Not even special teams. Well, what I was doing was I was rotating the plays in every other play, offensive tackle, every other play on the reserve team as a sophomore. And this is when I knew where Coach Wright's heart was, and this is when I knew that I had been noticed. He stops practice. In the middle of practice, we have a varsity offensive lineman that is very ill, and he doesn't look like he's going to get to play Friday. And Coach Wright asks Coach Clark, he says, "Coach Clark, who is your best offensive lineman?" Coach Clark pauses, and of course, the response wasn't immediate, so Coach Clark got the question asked immediately again. "I want to know who the best offensive lineman you have is." He puts him on the spot, and my name comes out of Coach Clark's mouth. And I remember Coach Wright looking right at him and saying, "How can he be your best lineman when he only plays half the time?" I appreciate that, Coach Wright. I didn't see him there complaining when my playing time didn't increase the rest of the year. And John, you know when you were talking about that player who had his hand on the shoulder and he had a hold of that face mask, it's very overrated. Another thing, Coach Wright, I would ask you to do me a favor. Would you please win a game? Because it's getting very difficult for me to convince the people at Westdale that I'm the best 0-6 coach in the state. But I know I'm safe because I told them that you taught me everything I know. Actually, I really, truly do not understand why he's being inducted in the Hall of Fame and what all the hubbub is truly about today. He's really not that good of a coach. He's a terrible judge of talent. I started for him for 2 years. He said it was because I'm smart. He's one of the only people that have ever told me that. Apparently, I was the only player that could figure out what, it's the same thing but different. I was the only one that figured out what that meant on the team, so I immediately had a position. What has Bud Wright taught me about football? What has Bud Wright taught me about life? He's taught me 3 things. Be reliable, be accountable, and don't worry about statistics. Let me give you an example of each one of those. Be reliable. Eastern Hancock, regional game, 1988. We were told the bus was going to leave around 4:30. I was the starting offensive guard. I was a returning starter, and we ran the ball probably 98% of the time. We had the state's leading running back, and I thought I had a very important role in the football team. We still had about 20 or 30 minutes before the bus left. I had all my stuff prepared, and I told my best friend, Bill Kellum, to please tell Coach Wright that I was going to go to Dairy Queen and get something to eat. I get into the drive-thru line at the Dairy Queen, and I don't know how, I know some of you people back there won't understand what I'm talking about, but at the Sheridan Dairy Queen, there's only room enough for one car. Once you're in that line, you're in that line. And anybody that'll tell you that Dairy Queen in Sheridan is fast food is a liar. All I ordered was a milkshake, but the person in front of me must have bought the whole bags. And you know how usually at the fast fast food places, they'll tell you to pull up a little bit. Pull up, we'll get the next customer, we'll bring it out to you. They're ready. Not at Sheridan. I'm a honking my horn and saying, can you please get out of the way? The bus is going to leave. I am not kidding you. You don't understand what it's like to play for Bud and to play football at Sheridan and to have the father that I had tears coming out of my eyes. I was an 18-year-old kid. I was crying in my 65 Fairlane in the drive-thru at Dairy Queen. Then it dawned on me, he won't leave. I told Bill to tell him that I went to the Dairy Queen. He'll understand I'm really not running that far behind. Finally, the lady in front of me pulls out. I drive straight through. I get to the four-way stop of State Road 47 and State Road 38 right in front of Bill Memorial Park. And guess who meets me at the four-way stop? Bus number 16. And Scott, if I remember right, I think you and Todd Harris were in the back window. And if I remember right, your motion was, we're number 1. My mom, we picked the bus up in Noblesville. My mom passed people on the right. People started pulling over. I thought we were trying to get to Riverview. I was doing this in the car. I was like, out of the way, sick kid. I got on the reserve bus at Noblesville there in front of the hospital, so I made it. So let me tell you something about Bud Wright. Let me tell you something about the kids who play football at Sheridan and the tradition. There was never a word said to me by one player, by the coach. When we got there, it was business. After the game, everybody had something to say. Be accountable. Be accountable. Clinton Central, 1987. Starting my first year of varsity football, and like I've already told you, I wasn't very good. I was smart. John Terhune would probably disagree with that. As would my wife as well. But we get to Clinton Central. They have a good team that year, and our expectations were always, you know how you say people achieve to the level of their expectations? Our expectations were always up here. And they had a good team, and they knew how to hit. And we got out there, and they gave us a ball game. It was a close one. I think it was only like 35-14. And I remember the guy in front of me was a Division I caliber defensive lineman. Sometimes he'd line up at linebacker, and he came, and he was twice my size. And he was just an animal. I mean, he was 3 times the athlete I was, but that never made any difference to Coach Wright. We were expected to do what was expected of us. It didn't matter who was on the other side of the football. And it was my first year, and I was so proud, and I told all my family I'm starting for Sheridan, and I'm playing for Coach Wright, and I'm on the varsity team, and I'm starting, and people were coming to the games, my family members. I remember my dad being so proud of me. We get back, and we've been beat up, and we knew it. Coach knew it. The bus pulls up to the high school, outside the locker room, and Coach Wright gets up to say some final few words. Boys, you got hit hard tonight, but it's a win. I want you to go home, relax, don't think about football, take the weekend, we'll come back and we'll go to work on Monday. Okay. Everybody gets up, grabs their satchels, you know, hey. Everybody sits back down, he says, and Monday I'm looking for a new right guard. That was the second time I cried. I thought he was serious. I truly did, but I really think, and that's when I thank you, Dan, for not getting in the weight room. Statistics don't matter. As a coach, again, it was my high school first time coaching varsity football, and we'd been over to Westfield. Westfield had a pretty good team that year, but we won. And we had a quarterback by the name of Brian Timming. Was an excellent quarterback, an excellent athlete, but he wasn't very fast. And the coaches will respect this, but our bread and butter was the midline, the top. And in order to, in the nature of that play for some of us lay people in here, what you're trying to do is the quarterback has a read. Either he's going to give it to the fullback or he's going to keep it, depending on what a defensive lineman does. And Brian was excellent at doing this, but he wasn't very fast and he had a bad knee. And this game at Westfield, Brian winds up with 200 and some odd yards rushing, running the pop. It was amazing. And I was in total awe of this. I was in amazement of this. And this just goes to show you what he can do with coaching. It wasn't athleticism. It was your preparation for the game. It was what you had. It was your game plan. It was the faith that you had in the kids. So afterwards, I come up to Bud after the game. I have the stat sheet. And I'm looking at this, and I can't believe it. Bud's sitting in a lawn chair or something, or on the concrete abutment out by the team bus. I come up and I say, Coach Wright, do you know how many yards Timmy had? Get me potato chips. And I looked in awe of what I just heard, and I stared at him and he says, Ruffles. That'll do it. I just want to make him nervous because he knows and I know that I got a couple more stories. But to wrap it up here, I am into coaching and I am into education because of Coach Wright. Because of the reasons that everyone else up here has spoken of. I can't say it any better than any of the other speakers that have been up here. And I'll tell you, when I say I wasn't very good, I wasn't. When I say all those things about plunging the toilets or going to buy a bag of potato chips, that was an honor for me to do that for him. And there are very few people in the world that have that kind of impact on people. And I will never, as Coach Zachary said in his letter to Coach Wright in the program, I will never get 275 wins in football. I may never even win a state championship. My hope is that I can have someday hope that maybe I'll have somebody come back, and it's the little things. You haven't heard a lot of people talk about those things here. You've heard the people like John, and you've heard what Dave said, and you've heard what James said, and you heard what Mike has said, and Dan, and all of these people. It's not the winning, the losing, it's not the football, it's the impact that you've had on people's lives. And I just feel a tremendous honor to have been a part of this tonight, and I thank you for everything that you have done for me. And I really thank you for everything that you have done for everybody in this room.
Thank you, Charlie. I know football's always been important to Bud, but we also know one of the most important things to him has always been his family. So now we're going to start hearing from some of his family members now. We're honored to have the middle son, and Kent is now the head coach at Lebanon High School, and we're going to bring Kent Wright first.
First of all, I'd just like to say thank you to everybody that's been saying nice things about my father and the family. It's great. I'm trying to get emotional here. Football and charity. I mean, when I think about football, they tell me I'm supposed to roast my dad, so I just heard about this right before the program. I'm supposed to roast, and I can't come up and think of something that I can roast him with. Football and Sheridan is key. I mean, if everybody from Sheridan knows that that's all you ever talk about in Sheridan is how the football team. It's never how the basketball team do. Never anything else. It's always about football. And we played football year-round all the time. One Sunday afternoon, like we always did Sunday afternoon, there'd be a big group of players, usually ex-players, thought they were good enough, should be playing college, should be playing semi-pro, whatever it was, would meet on the football field and play any type of football. Okay, this happened about every Sunday. Well, I was a freshman, and I thought, I'm tough, I'll go out there and play with these guys that had graduated a couple years ago. What it was, I was watching films with Dad, and I got tired of watching, like Dan said, 30 times, and going on and on, after being in there for about 2 hours and seeing 3 plays, I thought I need to go on out and do something. So I go out and get to play football. I jump in the game, and I get hurt. I hurt my shoulder. Okay, so I walk back in, I'm talking to Dad, and Dad, I hurt my shoulder. Fine, after this. So finally, 3 or 4 hours later, we get to go home. Get home, and anybody's ever played for Dad, his magic cure-all. What is it? Ice. Everything's ice. Well, I get home, and he checks my shoulder out. He's pressing a little bit. I mean, take your shirt off, and he starts pressing around a little bit. Where's the hurt? He presses up. Right there? I go, yeah, press it again. And he just keeps pressing that same spot over and over and over. Like it's not going to hurt us next time. Then he kind of slapped down my sore shoulder and said, "Ice it, you'll be okay." So this is Sunday. I have a game. I'm a freshman, by the way. I have a game on Monday. He fixes me up a pad. At this time, we didn't have trainers. Dave Irvin was the trainer. Imagine that. Dave Irvin did all the tape, and they fixed me up a pad. Okay? And then they tape my shoulder, and I play, and I go on for about a week, and I keep saying, "Dad, my shoulder hurts. My shoulder hurts." He'd check it, press, and I'd yell again, "Ice it, you're okay." So finally, I don't know, maybe the next week, I talked to Mom and said, "Mom, my shoulder is hurt. I need to go see the doctor." So she takes me out of school. I don't know to this day if she actually told Dad she was taking me to the doctor. But she takes me to the doctor, and I get x-rays, and I have a separated shoulder and a fractured collarbone. I come home, I tell Dad, no, you don't. They don't know. So he lets me sit out for a week. Then they told me, you're out 3 or 4 weeks. He lets me sit out for a week. Then he takes me back up, and I play the rest of the year. So that's a little bit. Anybody's played Sheridan football knows that's his magic cure on us all. But that should have been surprising to me. I think it was that same year that Kevin broke his arm, and he had Dr. Rollo Greer, the local vet. The local vet cut off Kevin's cast and take the x-ray and clear him so he could play against Zions. That's the truth. The real doctor didn't do it, so he went to the local vet. And he also had his blessing from Mom. So. Okay, I'm getting a little more serious now. This induction into the Hall of Fame. I feel that's not only for my dad, it's for my mom. You coaches that know my mom, you guys have been over. There's probably coaches within a 5-state range that have been to our house over the past 30, 40 years. And everybody knows, when you come to Sheridan, you come to our house, how you're going to be treated, and my mom's been a big part of this. My feeling on this is my dad been inducted in the Hall of Fame. My mom has also been inducted in the Hall of Fame. She's very deserving of this, and they're together. She's been very supportive in everything he does, and everything he's accomplished is because of what she does. She's been a big part of that. And she's been a big part of that in my life also. And also my father. Everything that I've ever accomplished in life has been based on my parents. Somebody talked about expectations. When you play for Coach Wright, the expectations are high. Charlie talked about it. It doesn't matter who's over you. He expects you to beat that person. It doesn't matter. I started linebacker at 125 pounds. It's big 200-pound fullback coming there. He'd be chewing my butt, pulling me. Why did you make the tackle? Why did you let him run you over? That kind of thing. That's his expectations. But those expectations we take on to life. And I don't know how many kids' lives he's touched. And because of that, they've been able to do things, accomplish things that they never thought they could accomplish before. And it's been that way all my life. Football in our family, just our immediate family, let alone, cousins and stuff that are coaching and teaching, is unbelievable. An example of how important football is in our family. I went to the Army right out of high school. 1 year, I didn't come home. I didn't come home for almost the whole year. And I was going to come home for Christmas. But that year, Dad went to the state championship. So I had a choice. Do you want to come home for Christmas, or do you want to come home for one night and see your dad play the state championship? I came home for the state championship. Didn't come home for Christmas.
Anybody that remembers me as a little kid, I was usually following him around, and he lost track of me most of the time. my one job, and he never told me what time we were going to leave. I always knew about what time. I just had that sense about what time. And he never left me. Now, he left my brother a couple of times. I was thinking we were on our way home, and just remember we forgot him, but that's his fault. But some of you, Sheridan it is a special place, and Sheridan football to me is very special. And I look over and I see Larry Hutchins and Mike Shilbert, and those guys were my heroes. I grew up, I was always watching those guys. In the late 60s, early 70s, I was usually down in the end zone playing football with cups. Some of the other guys were down there with me. I didn't really care that much because we weren't winning. That was the highlight of the night, was playing that game because we were getting beat. But when Larry Hutchins and Mike Shelburne, I think, Raleigh Greer, I think that was a freshman, that year in 1975, when we first started winning, that just started to have such an impact on me. And now it became, fun to go in the locker room and hear what people have to say, because when you start winning, boy, people come to run and everybody wants to be a part, and all of a sudden it becomes special. And since, probably 1975, there's been a special buzz about Sheridan football. And, a lot of people ask me, what was it like growing up, Bud Wright's son? And I really don't know anything any different, but, I'll say this, it was great. I got to ride with Harvey Wallbanger. Equipment bus, I couldn't ride the team bus until I was older, but we had his truck. And I'm going to say this, I always appreciate it. I don't know if you got that Bob Seger 8-track. That was great. No lie, my dad never allowed us to turn the radio up loud. Okay, he was always thinking about something, and Harvey let me turn that up. Silver Bullet Band. I enjoyed that, Harvey, and I never forgot that. And saw Mike Stitt back there. He talked to me a little bit earlier, and Coach Costolo was my freshman coach, and I can remember going to Mike's and having pizza. And again, I didn't think most of the time Dad even knew where I was at, but a lot of you people, I appreciate you taking me in. Mrs. Greer said I was one of the adopted people down in Curryville. I didn't live in Curryville, I lived in Boone County, but I spent most of my time there because we were there from early in the morning till late at night. And so I just go hang out at the Greenmans at their house, and when practice was over, I just showed up, and I always got a ride home. But probably my brother stole most of my materials, so I'm not going to get into it, but I was going to say probably the greatest thing I learned from my father growing up is that you're never really hurt as bad as what you think you are. My brother has a good story, and I'm going to try to top it. I don't know if I can top it. And actually, he was wrong on that part about going to Dr. Greer. And my dad didn't take me to Dr. Greer. We didn't do that, but my mother took me to Dr. Greer. She gave the okay. He said I couldn't play. But everybody actually knows the real deal in our family. My mom rules the roost. So I played. He said no. I played. I still couldn't talk to him unless we played that Southeastern game the year before coaching in Wright. We talked about that. But,
you know, we did play, and I appreciate that. But, you know, I had a couple broken bones when I was young. Did some silly things, broke a leg. And, you know, the same thing like Kim was saying, you always had ice, and that was the you know, the cure-all. But in the Sheridan training room, if you didn't have ice, because the ice machine didn't work all the time, and when it did work, it was a lot of time coaches were stealing Cokes out of the concession stand, so they used all the ice out. You had two things in the Sheridan training room, excuse me, you had two things. You had skin lube, and you had tape. Skin lube and tape could heal about anything as well. So if you didn't have ice, you had those two things. And you know, I didn't think I was hurt a lot. And you know, my dad, again, if I did think I was hurt, he would tell me otherwise. But there was one game my junior year. I was homecoming against Clinton Prairie, and I think you know, Lisa remembers it, and John Steven remembers it because I saved somebody because they were late to the homecoming activities. And I got injured, and I was, you know, I thought I was injured pretty bad, but I wasn't sure. You know, I was waiting on my dad's approval to make sure it was actually okay to, you know, to leave the game. And you know, I got flipped over, put my arm down, and I thought I felt something snap, and I looked down there. It just didn't look quite right to me. And you know, he came out, and you know, I'm just used to him saying, "Get up, you know, you're okay." And I saw a panicked look on his face. And he didn't say anything else, but it's broken. And I thought, must be broken. I started getting a little scared, actually. And sure enough, we got to the hospital, and not only was it broken in two different places, both bones, and pressed together. It was 2.5 inches shorter than what it should have been. They did 5 hours of surgery and all that type of thing. But I knew that I was actually hurt that time when I saw that expression on his face. There wasn't anything, you know, nothing else, but it's broken. And, you know, I went on with life, and you know, I think I'm a better person because of it. And I guess I probably don't have as much sympathy for my guys either, but we do have trainers now, so I don't have to deal with those guys. Those guys get hurt, we just move the ball to the other side of the hash, and the trainer comes out, we keep on practicing. You know, Sheridan football, and, you know, again, I mean, it doesn't matter. I've coached at some different schools. I've always took some things, you know, really 3 things that I learned, and you guys have played. There's 3 things that I think that we always pride ourselves on. And the first thing is we are going to run the ball. It doesn't matter who we're playing against. It does not matter if we're playing Hamilton Southeast. They got 10 guys up, you know, and they're stuffing it. We're going to run the football. And I used to get so mad at my dad. I just thought, throw the ball, throw the ball. And, you know, I guess one of the things I want to thank him for is that now when people are in the stands yelling at me, "Hey, Coach Wright, why don't you throw the ball in his face?" I've heard that so much. So we just, Coach Wright tell me to throw, we just keep on running. And but that's, you know, you win running the football, and the other thing is you win being physical. And, you know, my brothers alluded to, and Charlie and some of the other guys talked about, you know, you have Sheridan has not had big kids, and we've been blessed with some athletes. I mean, you know, yeah, a lot of average kids, but there's been a lot of good football players that have come through these, that have come through the halls of Sheridan. But, you know, the guys that played on defense, and I remember in 1980, and somebody was asking me, did you actually play on a state championship team because you didn't see any video from the 80s? Well, smarty like they didn't have video. It was 16 millimeter back then. Jeff Woodcock's back there, and you know, he will attest that we actually did play in the 80s, but that I was very fortunate to play with that group. And I think we had one, and we listed Jeff Greer at 205. I don't think Jeff probably was, if he was 205, that was with like shirts and socks and heavy shoes and everything else. Just we have one guy with 200 pounds on the roster, okay, on our defense. But we've always prided ourselves on being physical. And that's what I'm always talking to our kids about. Be physical, be physical. And, you know, I just think that those 2 things, you know, that's something that's pounding in your head. And, you know, the other thing is, no matter what happens, you know, you're going to play every down like it's your last. And, you know, we want our kids to play as hard as they can for 4 quarters. And that's what I got from my dad. And that's been a trademark to Sheridan teams. And I have not seen the last few years. I just hear stories. And, you know, so I don't know. But I do know this, that, you know, there's a lot of familiar names on that roster playing. And I think that if you work through these hard times, you just keep on playing, it's going to come back. I really do. Because I don't think the coaching, and Coach Bridge was a little, I caught most of his comments about how, you know, all of a sudden he became a worse coach, you know, because they weren't winning. That's, you know, the same things that we won with a few years ago, you'll win with again. But, you know, you just got to keep working. And I think attitude is key. But, you know, going back to 1980, you know, that group, that defensive group, I was real privileged to play on that group. And Jeff's here, so I'm going to tell a story because I always wanted to tell a story. And, you know, we weren't big, and I was the only sophomore, and everybody else was a group of seniors. And those were the toughest group of guys I think I've ever been around. And, you know, they were mean too. Those guys were mean and tough. And I know every one of them thought I was playing because I was a coach's son, and it might have been true, I don't know. But, you know, I talk about playing every down, not making mistakes. I learned that lesson very quick. I don't know if Jeff remembers this, but, you know, we were playing a game, and I don't remember who it was against now, but I got beat on a play-action pass. And I was so down, depressed, and I was like, oh, geez, you know, what's my dad going to say to me? I came back to the huddle, and Jeff was the captain. He got everybody around and said, everybody get in here. And he grabbed me and pulled me close to him, and took his fist, and he hit me as hard as he could in his stomach. I said, never let that happen again. Everybody's down like this, and nobody knew what was going on. I'm just down like this for a little bit longer because I'm trying to catch my breath. I think I let it happen one more time. I got the lesson. So the other day we had a sophomore make a mistake in our huddle, and one of the seniors asked me what to do. I said, well, I had to come here. I got a little secret. Sophomore's not going to make that mistake anymore. Now, I'm going to be serious just for a few minutes. And again, I'm not going to repeat a lot of what my coach said, but, you know, to get into the Hall of Fame, you got to be a great coach. You got to have great teams. But in my opinion, I think if you go back through, most of those people also had great spouses. I mean, I just think it's a must. There's too many ups and downs in coaching. My father's very fortunate. You know, not only did you know, she been there for him as a coach, but also as a mother, raising 5 kids and helping raise other grandkids just amazes me. And you know, I think that there's some. I knew everybody was going to talk about the on-field accomplishments, but I just wanted to mention a few of the off-field accomplishments of the real team that is sitting right here in front of me. The first accomplishment in my mind is we had a group of 5 kids, and I can honestly say I had everything I ever needed growing up. And, you know, I never knew we were poor. You know, I never knew we didn't have that much money. I mean, I didn't know that. I knew every Christmas we all got $25. I mean, I knew that. And I was so excited. And I tell you what, you know, it was, I always felt like I knew I was going to get those football cards, okay? I knew I was going to get those sweatbands. Where's my wife at? She likes those pictures of me in those sweatbands. And then one year, I knew I was going to get a ball of some kind. And I knew that's what I was going to get. And I was the happiest kid ever. Okay? Because the other thing my dad used to do is, and everybody knows this and knows it well, he likes to play cards. And I guess that's what he does, because he used to pick me up and take me with him on Saturday. I think that's the only reason he got out of the house, because he took one of us. I was just the one. He'd take me to school. Okay, I don't know if any of my friends are here. He'd take me to school about 10 o'clock, give me his keys, dump me off, and then he'd go play cards all afternoon. So here I am. I had a great life, because I had my new basketball. I'd get on the phone, I'd call all my friends, I'd call a few of my girlfriends, friends. And then, you know, we'd come over, we'd play basketball, we'd get in the concession stand, we'd eat popcorn. We had a great time. I don't know if you ever knew that or not. But the point is, I had a very happy childhood. And, you know, I'm very lucky, you know, to have those parents. And, you know, I really appreciate that. Another thing at our house is, you know, everybody's mentioned the fact my dad likes to eat. Well, there were 6 other people in that household, and we all like to eat too. At least something. And, you know, the thing is, I can never remember a night when my mom did not have something on the table ready to eat, sit down and eat at, you know, 6, 7 o'clock. And we always had something. And she always had milk, and that was a big deal in our house. Because we went through 1 to 2 gallons a day. So she's always, I never knew, you why she didn't buy more milk, but I mean, 1 or 2 gallons a day. But I want to tell you something that you may not know. My dad is very creative, and Mr. Urban alluded to this earlier, and his analytical side coming out. So he decided that we were going to solve the problem. And again, I've heard the farm stories again. The new farm stories came out. I like those better. So he would buy a different animal every year. And I don't know if some of the kids remember this, but he'd buy a different animal to solve the problem. So of course, the first thing he did was buy a cow. So he grew up on a dairy farm, so I guess we were supposed to know how to milk cows. I mean, we had a cow for a while. I remember trying to milk it. I don't even remember us actually drinking any of the milk, but it was kind of a good idea. I came home one day, the cow was gone. I don't know. And then, one winter we'd get some hogs, and we'd have pork all winter, and that wasn't bad. And we'd have cattle, and we had steaks all winter. And then one winter, there used to be a sale barn over in Straw Town. I don't know if there's still a sale barn. I went with him, and there's this cute little bunny rabbit. And I'm thinking, he buys 5 or 6 bunny rabbits, and I'm thinking, all right, I always wanted a pet, because we never really actually had pets in my house, because they always either get eaten or they So we started out with 6 rabbits, and you put them in a cage, and if you've ever had rabbits, the stories are true. They multiply quickly. Next thing I know, we got 200 rabbits. It's my job to feed them, and I hated that job. I probably don't think I did a very good job either, but one day my dad, he said, come on, and he's got a couple knives in his hand, and we went down, and I found out that day that those were really not pets. And this is a true story for the next 12 months. We had rabbit about every night. We had fried rabbit, we had baked rabbit, we had rabbit casserole. But Coach Urban was right. We found a way. And the important thing was we ate. And to this day, I pride myself on whatever's put in front of me, I eat. My wife might disagree, but I think that's true. I'm just going to close. I'm going to say that I've learned some life lessons from the people in front of me, and I want to share those with you real quick. The first life lesson that I've learned is if you want to be successful in life, you're going to have to develop a strong work ethic. I don't know of any 2 people that in their own way work any harder at what they do. I just don't. From a time commitment standpoint, and you heard about my dad, the hours, but my mom, the hours, unbelievable. And when my dad's gone, my mom was with all the kids. And, I remember those nights, growing up when I had, pain in the knees, and you'd always get up and you'd rub my legs and you'd tell me stories and talk to me. I've never met 2 people that worked any harder. I guess if you have to be hard workers to stay married for 40 years or to stay in a certain profession for 40 years, because it just doesn't happen. And, the only thing I guarantee my players is that when we start the season is that nobody's going to outwork us. Nobody's going to outwork us. So they may beat us, but they won't outwork us. But that's the first thing I learned. The second thing is that if you want to stay successful, you got to constantly look for ways to improve yourself. Now, Mr. Bridge told a lot of good stories about my dad going to clinics. And, that's true. Now, I didn't know he actually went to the speakers, though, when he went to the clinics, Bob, until I went with him a couple times. I thought he just went, for the social hour, play cards and those types of things. But I've never met anybody in the coaching profession, and he's been in it for years and years. He will drive to Rice Lake. He'll go wherever it takes to learn. And, and that's something that you never know everything there is to know. And, you've got to constantly try to learn things and to improve yourself. And, I just laugh when I see coaches that they don't do those things. Because, I just know, that that's why he's been successful. He has changed, and somebody mentioned the midline. That's, that if you know football for the coaches, I mean, that's something that's evolved in the last few years. Not everybody understands those things. But that's different than what he did traditionally. My mom's the same way. And then if you've been in our house, she has a room dedicated to tapes and books. And she's always trying to improve herself so she can help others. And, I don't know if you know those things about her. You probably know things about him. But they're the same way. The third thing, and this is real important, treat other people as you want to be treated. I've had a great opportunity to teach in coaching some very diverse situations. Warren is a very diverse school, North Central is a very diverse school. And I can say this, I've always felt at home around people of all color, people of all socioeconomic backgrounds, because I watched my parents. I've never heard my parents say anything negative about anybody. I've never heard them say anything negative, and I've always felt at home with other people. And, you know, to me, you know, that's, you know, people stereotype shared a little bit, but, you know, my parents, you know, I've never heard them say anything negative about any group of people, and they've always treated people all the same, regardless of whether they were the bus driver, the janitor, or the head coach at Hamilton Southeastern. Everybody gets treated the same. And, you know, just a quick story, you know, my dad, he'll talk to anybody. I mean, he talks to people sometimes that scare me. I mean, you know, we're driving, my brother's in the military, and we're driving him out to California, and we're going straight through 48 hours. Okay, we buy a car in Indianapolis, we're driving straight through to San Francisco. We got 48 hours to get there. He's on a pass. And we're driving through Wyoming at about 3 o'clock in the morning. Okay. And it's snowing, it's cold, and I look ahead, and through the haze, there's an Indian on the side of the road, and his car's broke down. Okay, there is nobody around for miles. And I think that I feel our car slowing down a little bit. And I'm thinking, no. Sure enough, pulls right up, gets out of the car, and asks this Indian, we're in the middle of a reservation, asks this Indian if he can use some help. And the guy says, well, yes, I need to jump. And we jumped and started his car, and he went on his way. And, you know, I got back in the car, and I said, why? I thought the guy was going to kill us. I said, why in the world would you stop and help that guy? And he said, because if it was turned around, he would have done it for us. I looked at him and said, yeah, right. Let's get the idea. Finally, last thing I'm going to close. I think I learned maybe my greatest lesson.
Already alluded to the fact that your mom's lost her family. When I got up, you walk up here, she said, make it short. I guess I'll have to follow orders there, but Sharon, I think they kind of failed. I think the speakers, that 3 or 4 minutes kind of went a little overtime. Anyway, I'm very proud and happy, and it's really a pleasure to be here and to receive this honor. And I think that, like I said, it is a family honor as far as the whole thing is concerned. I'd like to introduce my grandkids that are here. I think my kids, well, let's go back. Let's go Kevin and Liz. No one didn't mention Liz. Stand up, Liz. Lana and husband Gary. Kent and Trina. The paper got it wrong that one day, didn't they? They had it kind of turned around. And Travis and Heather. So then their spouses. Graduated college now, he's the oldest. And then we go down the line a little bit. Brent, Tyler, Cameron, Shay, and Jameson. Okay, not present is Travis' little girl Emily and Kevin's little girl Trinity. We're a little bit too young to go. I'd also want to introduce Judy and Roland, my sister and brother-in-law, Laura and Raleigh, Goff, and their family. Stand up, please. And Arnold and Arlene Pettigrew.
These were my immediate family when I was growing up. Another lady that's kind of special to the Wright family down through the years, she used to babysit with all of us, and we used to go to their house a lot, Eileen Childers. Her and her husband were very close friends with my mom and dad, and she used to rock me on her knee and change me, diaper, and all that kind of stuff. And she's also my children's grandma. Okay, I'd like to thank Sharon and the committee, my wife and two daughters, etc., for their hard work in putting this on, and it really means a lot to me. Also, Don Willard, stand up please again. You stood up earlier. Back in college, who would have known when we was in college that we'd go into the Hall of Fame the same year? Proud to know at the same time. Thank you. Since 1952, school year 1952-53, there's only been 2 years, 2 school years, that I've not been involved in football. That was my junior and senior year in college. Other than that, I started when I was a 6th grader. I was 67 pounds. And at that time, when I went home and asked my mom and dad, and like our family, I guess, my mom sort of ruled the roost at times there. I asked her then if I could play football as a 6th grader on junior high team. And she said, you can play as long as you don't act like you're not going to get hurt. She said, don't go out there and be afraid. You've got to be a player. Don't ever let your size be an obstacle. And that's advice I took from that many years ago. My parents really made things happen. In order to get to this position, a lot of things have got to fall into place. And I think that all starts with my parents. They made things happen. Not only for me, but for the rest of us also. And I think somewhere they're probably looking down on this with great pride and honor. And that they really meant a lot to all of us. Another factor is football experience. Barney Stout in junior high and Bob Day. Bob, stand up, please. Football atmosphere. I mean, it was a great pleasure playing for Bob, and really, I mean, it's great, really great that those years. I learned a great deal. Not only do I still use most of the offense that we used then, on basis of that offense, we come off the same things we did there, but Bob really taught me a lot about how to get along with athletes. I think Bob had a tremendous relationship with the athletes that he coached and such, and I think I copied after that a great deal. And I think that hopefully that's where I got most of my life from.
You were a quick learner. Run it again.
Yeah, we heard his name, didn't we? But anyway, Bob gave a really a great high school experience in football. Family-wise, yes, Jane had a lot of sacrifices. For 12 or 13 years, I worked in the football camp in Ohio. Tony Ferraro, please stand. Tony goes back to the days, the Camp America days. And he's from Dayton, Ohio, came over for this. But we worked for 12 or 13 years at camp, and this every year fell on our wedding anniversary day. Now, to complicate this a little bit more, the Louisville and Cincinnati football clinics every year fall on Jane's birthday. And I've never been home for her birthday very often. But, you know, she really hasn't complained too much about that now through the years. But she's had great sacrifices, and many times, it's like you say, she's had to take care of the kids when I wasn't there. I've been blessed down through the years with a lot of good people around me, not only in the coaching profession, but also the teaching profession. I want to mention co-workers, the teachers, several of them are here. Some of us are still teaching at Sheridan, some have left and gone other places. And I've really been blessed being around people and just working with this type of people. And I think you don't like to, you always miss something, you single out one person or so, but I think that we have great teachers at Sheridan High School, and we all work together, get along pretty great. But in 40 years in the education profession, I think John Terhune typifies really Sheridan. John Terhune is the best teacher I've known in 40 years teaching. And I think that he typifies the teaching attitude as far as Sheridan is concerned. And he does a tremendous job there. Administration, I've been very, very lucky to work under a great administration. Principals, Barney Stout. Barney is the one that brought me to Sheridan. He called and wanted to know if I'd be interested in a job. I never applied for the job. I said, yes, I did rest. He said, come up for an interview. So we came in for an interview. Burl Coombs. Al Humans for several years. Al was a coach for us, and then he went into the administration, took over the principal job. And our present principal, Ed Baker. These are all been top-notch people and also athletic-minded people. And they are great people to work with. Go up to the superintendency. Ken Harris. Ken, stand please. Ken and I came to Sheridan at the same time, fall of 1966. And we sort of found a home for the community that's there. So it's been a great pleasure working with you down through the years and such, and excellent as far as administration is concerned. And our present superintendent, Dr. Mark, you were introduced, done a great job there. Okay, also community, great support. It's been a great town to live, to raise your family in, and also just to coach in. We've down through the years, it's been special to me. Assistant coaches are many, many, many. All assistant coaches, been assistant coaches, please stand. How many we got here? Mark, Rob, 1, 2, 3, 4, all these presidents. So we got a lot of people here who have been assistants, and these are top-notch men, really top-notch people. I've been very blessed with this. Like I mentioned, Dave Urban, 30-plus years. Jim Carr, who is the assistant principal at Hamilton Heights now. Jim coached, what did we say, 5 years? Coached with us 5 years, and he coached 3 NFP teams in 5 years. So, at the freshman level coming up. So, we've had great coaches down through the years that's there. Rob Patchett. Rob always came in, he tried to feed me. He's the one that made me eat so much. He always wanted my job, so he kept giving me potatoes and all that kind of stuff. But, so, a lot of those stories, they're not all true, I'll tell you. Also, top-notch athletes. I mean, we have had, as Kevin said, we've had some top-notch athletes. We've had average athletes, but we've had our share and more of our share of top-notch athletes. And again, names such as Palmer, Greeman, Law, Greer, Shelburne, Zachary, Dell, Thompson, Shields, Ayers, Harris, Maynard. Those names don't represent one person. In most instances, they represent more than one people, plus many, many others. And if I forgot somebody, Jeff Woodcock. If I forgot somebody, I didn't intend to, but everybody's been great as far as athletes are concerned. The thing that I think that really made us good and really made us great is the attitude of the players we've had. John Coppus did not play football for us, but John Coppus would love to play football for us. John Coptus's attitude was a tremendous attitude. John, stand up again. I mean, this guy, I mean, you get out there and you yell at him, run, run, run. And he's not, he wanted to do it. He wanted to do it. And he would fall on his face and he'd say, get up, get up. And he'd get up and he'd go more. And like you said, one of the greatest accomplishments that John had worked at was the county track meet. The county track meet. Tell them what your goal.
What to keep from being laughed by the winner.
Right. The runner from Carmel was state contender.
Yep.
He wanted to cross the finish line on the first lap before he crossed the finish line. And he accomplished that goal. And that's what we work for. And that attitude right there is the attitude that we've had in our athletes, and John is typifies that attitude, and I love him to death. And all the other athletes that we've had. SQ award winners. I think we got two here, three maybe. Stand up, please. Zachary boys, right over here. Okay. Only two brothers so far to get it. And hopefully maybe we can continue our family tradition here one of these days. If you don't, if he doesn't recruit them over to Crawfordsville. Also, Harold Pitts. Please stand. Raleigh Golf again. Mike Stitt. Joe Straw. Jim Sandberg. Those guys played down through the years, in the bad years and good years, played a prominent role as far as helping our program is concerned. We've had great rivalries. And I think when you look back down through the years, one of the greatest rivalries, Dave Enright, stand please. Dave Enright, Hamilton Southeastern, we had one of the greatest rivalries. It was a great rivalry, game time. After the game, it was all friendship. And it was that way for several years. Dave always liked kind of pull tricks though. I told him I was going to tell this story. When you got down inside Dave's 10-yard line, and Bill Reed could testify to this also, you get down inside Dave's 10-yard line, down about the 7 or 8 yard line, he always liked to send 2 guys in and 1 guy come off. And you watch film and look at them. Hey, there's 12 guys out there. He played 12 guys. I asked him about was. I said, Dave, I said, what is that? He says, well, I'll tell you what. If you get caught doing that, it's only half, on the yard, it's only half the distance to go line. So we tricked him one year. We tricked him on it. We got down to goal line, and they had a pretty good ball club. In fact, that's the team that went to the state runner-up. We got down to goal line, and we had trouble getting it in. So we knew that his defensive backs keyed our tackles. So we told our tackles to release downfield. They released downfield. Their halfback come run up, or took care of the run. We dropped a little pass for a touchdown out of there. We got even with that. That's illegal, man. Bill Reed, Westfield, Hamilton Heights, and also helped us coach for a couple of years. Bill is a great friend. When we were struggling, when I was struggling in the early 70s, I spent many a day, many a Saturdays over at Bill's house in Westfield. Right, Bill? Great. Marquez, great rivalry, playoffs, and again, great friendship down through the years. It's Kevin Roth there. Okay, and Jim Plummer, years ago, this goes back to one of the early ones, back in the real early 70s, wasn't Jim? Hamilton Heights. Quite early. But again, I mean, this goes back to the early years. We still remained in close friendship down through the years. These type of friendships you'll never lose. Also, I'd like to mention the Wishbone Association and the Option Camp people. Stand up, please. Bob Rich, Bob Prescott, Tim Du Bois, Clark Curtis, and Jeff Addison. All coaches such, and we make this daily trip. We did do it for several years, and it's a great time. It's great to be here, guys. This, like I say, is quite a thrill. We've got Mike Spencer coming from deep down the southern part of the state. We've got Mark Curtis from the northern part of the state. We got Tony Ferraro from Ohio. And I really appreciate this type of friendship and the fact that they would come to this induction. Also, Marty and Jackie Eckelbacher from way down southern part of the state also came back as far as to come up. One last person here, and then I introduce the last couple here, and we'll be done here. We have a politician in our midst. Yeah, he is. Bros, you got 15 seconds. Stand up and tell us how it's going.
It was going great about an hour and a half ago.
Bros is a former player, and he's running for. Bros, go ahead and tell him what's going on.
I'm running for Congress. Tonight's your night, my friend. Congratulations.
You're the United States Congress and an ex-player, and we're proud and ready to be here. Last but not least, high school teammates, please stand. Got it. Okay. Fred Spencer, John Sneathen, Don Cooper, Dan McVeigh, and I think the Pearson boys leave. They were here earlier. The Pearson boys, there they go. Mary and Phil. There's the high school teammates there. And also coached by Bob Day. But Fred Spencer, John Sneathen, Don Cooper, and Dan McVeigh, for years and years and years, they kept telling me, we got to run these plays. We got to run these plays. Come and get the plays from me. So 2 years ago, I thought, I'll give him a break. I'll start listening to him. So for the last 2 years, I've been listening to him. I'm not going to listen to him anymore. I thank everybody for coming. It's a great opportunity, and I really appreciate everybody being here. Thank you.